I'm standing in the parking lot of Marchand's, the restaurant where I've celebrated every milestone for 30 years, and my hands are shaking so badly I can barely grip my car keys. The waitress, Hannah, she's the one who locked the door behind me, not to keep me in, to keep my son out, and what she just showed me on that security footage. God, I can still see it. Benjamin's hand, steady and deliberate, reaching into his jacket pocket, the small vial. The way he glanced over his shoulder once, twice, before unscrewing the cap and pouring something into my wine glass. My own son, poisoning me. I thought I was losing my mind. For 6 months, I've been losing my sense of taste, my sense of smell. The doctors ran every test imaginable, MRIs, neurological panels, blood work. Nothing. They said it was age, stress, maybe early onset dementia. I'm 62, not ancient, but I started believing them. Started thinking my life's work, my vineyards, my wines, 40 years of building Theodore Ashford wines into a name that sommeliers whisper with reverence, was slipping through my fingers because my body was betraying me. But it wasn't my body. It was Benjamin. Hannah had seen it happen 3 times, 3 separate visits where Benjamin arrived early, ordered for both of us, and doctored my drink before I sat down. She didn't know what it was at first, thought maybe it was a vitamin supplement, something harmless. But then she noticed the pattern. Every time I came in with Benjamin, I'd complain about the food tasting off. I'd send back dishes, accuse the chef of over-salting, under-seasoning. I made a fool of myself, and my son would sit there, concerned, loving, suggesting maybe I should take a step back from the business. Maybe it was time to retire. Maybe it was time to sell. That's when Hannah checked the trash, found the vial Benjamin had tossed into the restroom bin, thinking no one would look. Zinc acetate industrial solvent for commercial tank, cleaning only. She Googled it. Blocks olfactory receptors, destroys your ability to taste, to smell, temporary if you stop, permanent and fatal if you keep going. Kidney failure, organ shutdown. She showed me the research on her phone, her eyes wet with tears, and I felt something break inside my chest, not my heart, something colder. My illusions. Benjamin isn't just trying to make me incompetent. He's trying to make me sign over the sale of my vineyards, $120 million to Vint Global, a corporate vulture that turns heritage wineries into canned cocktail factories. And if I don't die from the poison first, he'll have me declared mentally unfit. Either way, I'm gone. Either way, he wins. Except now I know. And here's the thing about a man who spent his life working with soil and sun and time. You learn patience. You learn that revenge, like a fine vintage, is best served after careful preparation. I don't go home that night. I drive straight to the vineyards, to the small laboratory I built behind the fermentation hall 15 years ago. Most people don't know it exists. It's where I test soil pH, analyze grape sugars, experiment with oak aging compounds. It's my sanctuary. And tonight, it's my war room. Hannah gave me the vial she'd fished from the trash, sealed in a plastic bag like evidence, because that's exactly what it is. Evidence that my son has been systematically destroying me from the inside out. I set up the gas chromatograph, my hands steadier now that I have a purpose. The machine hums to life, and I carefully extract a sample from the vial. The smell hits me first, chemical, sharp, nothing like the earthy complexity of wine. I run the analysis 3 times to be sure. Zinc acetate, yes, but not just any concentration. This is industrial grade, the kind used to strip organic residue from steel fermentation tanks. In small doses, it temporarily blocks zinc-dependent enzymes in your olfactory system. Your sense of smell vanishes. Your taste goes with it. But in repeated doses, over months, your kidneys start to crystallize. Your liver starts to fail. You die slowly, confused, thinking it's just old age catching up. I sit there staring at the readout until 3 a.m., and that's when the rage really hits me. Not the hot, explosive kind, the cold, calculating kind. Benjamin has been coming to Sunday dinners for 6 months, watching me struggle to taste my own wines, watching me second-guess every vintage, every blend. He'd put his hand on my shoulder and say, "Dad, maybe it's time. You've earned your rest." And I almost believed him. I almost signed the papers last month. Vint Global had everything ready, the contracts, the press release, the rebranding strategy. I hesitated only because something felt wrong, not the deal. My gut, turns out, my gut was the only thing still working properly. I need to know why. I need to know what's worth killing your father for. So I do something I never thought I'd do. I break into my son's office. It's in the east wing of the estate. The building I gave him when he joined the business 5 years ago. He calls it the Innovation Hub. I call it a glass monument to his ego. I use my master key, the one he doesn't know I kept, and slip inside at dawn, when the skeleton crew is focused on the morning harvest. His desk is chaos, empty coffee cups, crumpled papers, his laptop still open, sloppy. Benjamin was always sloppy. The laptop isn't even password protected. I click through his files and find a folder labeled VA Project, Confidential, VA, Vint Global Acquisition. I open it and my blood goes cold. There are spreadsheets, projections, architectural renderings. He's not selling the vineyards to preserve them. He's selling them to gut them. The plan is explicit. Phase 1, liquidate vintage inventory, 18 meters. Phase 2, convert estate to industrial canning facility. Phase 3, rebrand as Ashford Seltzers. Target demographic Gen Z, price point $4.99 4-pack. There are emails to Lawrence Vint, the CEO of Vint Global, discussing removing the old man from decision-making and accelerating timeline due to health concerns. And then I find the worst part, a PDF titled Debts Current, XLSX. Benjamin owes $4.7 million to offshore gambling sites. Another $2.3 million to private lenders with names like Dimitri and Marcus. The interest is compounding daily. There are screenshots of threatening messages. Final notice. Pay by end of quarter or we visit the estate. My son isn't just greedy, he's desperate. And desperate men don't just destroy their fathers' legacies, they destroy their fathers. I close the laptop, and for the first time in 6 months, I smile. Because now I know exactly what I'm fighting for. Not just my vineyards, my life, but here's the thing Benjamin doesn't know about me. I didn't build Theodore Ashford Wines by playing fair. I built it by outthinking every competitor, every bad harvest, every economic crash. And if my son thinks he can outmaneuver me, he's about to learn that the old man still has a few vintages left in him. Except this time, I'm not crafting wine. I'm crafting his downfall. I find the liquidation order buried in Benjamin's email trash. He's scheduled it for Friday night, tomorrow at 11 p.m. A fleet of unmarked trucks from a company called Prestige Beverage Liquidators will arrive at the estate's loading dock to remove 5,000 bottles from our vintage cellar. Not the cheap stuff. The Reserve Collection, the 1987 Cabernet that won double gold at the International Wine Challenge, the 1995 Pinot Noir that Robert Parker scored 98 points, the 2003 Bordeaux blend that sommeliers in Manhattan pay $800 per bottle for. 40 years of my life, reduced to a quick cash grab to pay off Benjamin's gambling debts. He's selling them to a grey market dealer for pennies on the dollar, $18 million total, when the collection is worth closer to $50 million at auction. But he needs fast money, and fast money is always dirty money. I don't sleep. I call Martin, my vineyard manager, at 6 a.m. He's been with me for 23 years, since he was a kid fresh out of UC Davis with a degree in viticulture and a work ethic that put everyone else to shame. If there's anyone I trust with this, it's him. Martin, I say, I need you to come to the estate, alone. Don't tell anyone, not your wife, not the crew, no one. There's a pause. Then, how bad is it, Theodore? I hear the concern in his voice, the kind you reserve for someone you consider family. Bad enough that I'm about to ask you to help me rob my own cellar. Another pause. Then, I'll be there in 20 minutes. We meet in the fermentation hall, away from the security cameras Benjamin had installed last year. I tell Martin everything, the poison, the emails, the liquidation plan. I watch his face go from shock to disgust to something harder, more resolved. That bastard, he mutters, after everything you've done for him. I nod. But here's what we're going to do. Tonight, we're going to swap every bottle in that vintage cellar with decoys. We're going to make sure Benjamin's trucks drive away with nothing but expensive-looking trash. Martin's eyes widen. 5,000 bottles. Theodore, that's impossible. We'd need 30 hours, 2 people, and a lot of vinegar. I finish. Can you do it? Martin looks at me for a long moment, then a grin slowly spreads across his face. You know what? Yeah, let's rob the bastard blind. We spend the day gathering supplies, empty bottles from the recycling depot, 15 years worth of discarded wine bottles that I'd been saving for a glass art project that never happened. Food-grade red dye from the homebrew shop in town, white vinegar by the gallon from a restaurant supplier. We work in the old barn, the one on the edge of the property that hasn't been used since we modernized the facilities. It's perfect, isolated, dusty, invisible. We fill each bottle carefully, mixing the vinegar with the dye until the color matches our 1987 Cabernet. It looks perfect through green glass. But the moment someone opens it, pure acid. We start the swap at 10 p.m. Thursday night, exactly 24 hours before Benjamin's trucks arrive. The vintage cellar is temperature controlled, locked with a biometric scanner that only recognizes 3 fingerprints: mine, Benjamin's, and the head of security. But the head of security goes home at 9 p.m. and Benjamin's at a business dinner in the city. Probably another meeting with Lawrence Vint, celebrating their victory before it even happens. That leaves me. Martin and I move like ghosts through the rows of bottles, each one cradled in its wooden rack, each one labeled with the year, the vineyard block, the bottling date. I've memorized this cellar. I know every bottle like I know every scar on my hands. We work in silence, replacing the real bottles with our decoys, one by one. The real bottles, the actual treasure, we load onto a hand truck and wheel out the back entrance, the one that leads directly to the old barn. Trip after trip, hour after hour. My back screams, my knees threaten to give out. I'm 62 years old, and I'm pulling off a heist in my own home. But every time I want to stop, I picture Benjamin's hand reaching for that vial. I picture him pouring poison into my wine, watching me deteriorate, calculating how long until I'm weak enough to control, and I keep moving. By 6 a.m. Friday morning, it's done. 5,000 bottles of vinegar sit in the vintage cellar, perfectly arranged, indistinguishable from the real collection unless you open one. And hidden in the old barn, wrapped in blankets and nestled in hay like sleeping giants, are my life's greatest achievements. Safe, protected, mine. Martin and I stand in the barn doorway as the sun rises over the vineyards, and he claps me on the shoulder. "Mom, Theodore," he says quietly, "when those trucks come tonight, they're going to steal the most expensive vinegar in California." I laugh, actually laugh, for the first time in months. And Benjamin's going to pay them for the privilege. But the real masterpiece, Benjamin doesn't know I've recovered the vial. He doesn't know I've stopped taking the poison. And he definitely doesn't know that tonight. When his trucks roll away with worthless cargo, I'll be watching from the shadows, already 10 steps ahead of him. Because the heist isn't the revenge, it's just the opening move. The zinc is killing me, but slowly. That's the insidious genius of Benjamin's plan. It's not dramatic enough to raise alarms, not sudden enough to trigger an investigation. Just a gradual fade into irrelevance, into incapacity, until I'm confused enough to sign anything he puts in front of me. But now that I know what it is, I can fight it. I spend Friday morning researching zinc depletion protocols, talking to a toxicologist friend from my university days who asks no questions when I describe it as a hypothetical contamination scenario. He emails me a protocol: megadoses of zinc supplements, aggressive hydration, activated charcoal to bind any remaining toxins. It'll take 4 to 7 days, he writes, and it's going to feel like hell. He's not wrong. I lock myself in the laboratory behind the fermentation hall and start the detox protocol Friday afternoon, right after Benjamin's trucks finish loading the decoy bottles. I take 200 ml of zinc gluconate every 4 hours, 10 times the normal dose. I drink purified water until I feel like I'm going to burst. The activated charcoal makes me nauseous, turns everything I eat into black sludge. My body rebels. I get headaches that feel like my skull is splitting. My hands shake. I vomit twice into the lab sink, but I don't stop, because on Wednesday there's a meeting. Benjamin has scheduled it for 10 a.m., the final meeting with Vint Global to sign the acquisition papers. I have 5 days to get my senses back, or I lose everything. Sunday morning, I test myself. I cut a lemon in half and hold it under my nose. Nothing, just a vague sense that something acidic is nearby, but no scent, no brightness. I put a piece on my tongue. Barely any taste, just a faint sourness like old dishwater. I want to scream, I want to throw the lemon across the room, but Martin, who's been checking on me every few hours, puts a hand on my shoulder. "Give it time," he says. "Your body's been poisoned for 6 months. It's not going to fix itself overnight." He's right, but time is the one thing I don't have. That night, I dream about the vineyards burning, about Benjamin standing in the flames, smiling. Monday, I wake up at dawn and immediately reach for the coffee Martin brewed. I bring it to my lips and wait, is that? No, maybe. I can't tell if I'm tasting it or just remembering what coffee tastes like. It's maddening, this space between hope and reality. I try the lemon again, still mostly nothing, but there's a ghost of something sharp on my tongue. It's not much. It's barely anything, but it's more than yesterday. I increase the zinc dose. The toxicologist warned me not to go above 400 milliliters daily, risk of copper deficiency, immune problems. But I don't care. I'm not trying to live forever. I'm trying to live through Wednesday, Tuesday afternoon. Something shifts. I'm standing in the vineyard, checking the Cabernet grapes for the upcoming harvest, and the wind changes direction, and I smell it. Soil, wet earth, the faint mineral tang of the irrigation system. It's subtle, barely there, but it's real. I grab a grape off the vine and crush it between my fingers, bring it to my nose. Sugar, skin tannins, that green vegetal note of an unripe grape. Oh God, it's coming back. I don't tell anyone. I don't celebrate. Because I need Benjamin to think I'm still sick, still deteriorating. I need him to feel safe. Wednesday morning, the day of the meeting, I perform my final test. I brew a fresh pot of coffee, dark roast, the kind I used to drink every morning before the poisoning started. I pour a cup and bring it to my lips. The aroma hits me first, smoky, bitter, complex. I take a sip, and I taste it, fully, completely. The bitterness, the acidity, the faint chocolate notes in the finish. My eyes water, not from pain, from relief. I'm back. My palate, my nose, my identity as a winemaker, it's all back. But when I leave the laboratory and walk to the main house, I shuffle my feet. I let my shoulders sag. I look at the breakfast Martin prepared and say, loud enough for Benjamin to hear from the hallway, "Everything still tastes like cardboard." Benjamin appears in the doorway, all concern and false sympathy. "Dad, Maybe after the meeting today, we should get you to a specialist. A real one. I nod slowly, like I'm too tired to argue. Then maybe you're right, son, he smiles. And I smile back, because in 3 hours, I'm going to walk into that meeting with Lawrence Vint and every investor from Vint Global, and I'm going to serve them the most expensive lesson they've ever tasted. Benjamin thinks he's won. He thinks his father is a broken old man, confused and fading, ready to be swept aside. But what he doesn't understand is that the best wines aren't made in a day. They're made through patience, through pressure, through knowing exactly when to harvest. And Benjamin, he's overripe. He's about to fall right into my hands. The conference room smells like expensive cologne and predatory ambition. Lawrence Vint arrives at 9:45 a.m. with an entourage that looks like they stepped out of a corporate horror film. 3 lawyers in identical navy suits, 2 financial analysts clutching tablets, and a brand consultant who won't stop talking about disrupting the legacy wine space. They arrange themselves around the mahogany table like vultures circling a carcass. And the carcass, apparently, is me. Lawrence himself is exactly what I expected. Mid-50s, spray tan, teeth too white to be real, handshake too firm to be sincere. "Theodore," he says, gripping my hand like he's trying to crush it, "it's an honor. Truly, your wines have been benchmarks of excellence for decades. The word have been hangs in the air like a threat. Past tense, already dead." Benjamin sits beside him, and I watch my son's face carefully. He looks confident, relaxed, like a man who's already won. He's wearing a new suit, Brioni, probably $6,000, and a watch I don't recognize, some ostentatious Swiss thing that screams, "I'm about to be rich." He hasn't dressed like this in years, not since he joined the business and realized that wealth whispers, it doesn't shout, but desperation makes people loud. He catches my eye and gives me a smile that's supposed to be reassuring but comes off as patronizing. "And Dad, these are the gentlemen we've been talking about. They're going to take the Ashford legacy into the future." The future, right. The future where my name is stamped on aluminum cans of mango seltzer. Lawrence launches into his pitch, and it's everything I expected. Market research, demographic trends, consumer behavior analytics. He talks about wine like it's a commodity, like 40 years of soil management and varietal selection and harvest timing can be reduced to a profit margin. "The premium wine market is contracting," he says, clicking through a PowerPoint presentation. "Millennials and Gen Z aren't buying $100 bottles of Cabernet. They're buying experiences, convenience, accessibility. What we're proposing is a transformation of the Ashford brand into something that speaks to the modern consumer." I nod along, playing the part of the confused old man. I let my eyes glaze over during the financial projections. I even ask him to repeat something about quarterly EBITDA targets because I didn't quite catch it. But then he says something that makes my blood boil. "Theodore, let's be honest. Your wines are beautiful. They're art. But art doesn't scale. And frankly, with your health challenges, the brand is already suffering. We've seen the reviews. The 2023 vintage was panned by Wine Spectator. They said it lacked the complexity of your earlier work, that it tasted muddled and uncertain. Those are direct quotes." He pauses, lets that sink in. The market is already losing confidence. "We're offering you a graceful exit before the decline becomes irreversible." I feel Martin, sitting behind me as my operations advisor, stiffen in his chair, but I don't react. I just nod slowly, like a man who's already accepted defeat. The brand consultant, a woman named Stephanie with aggressively modern glasses, starts talking about the rebranding vision. She pulls up mock-ups on her tablet. Ashford seltzers, Ashford hard lemonades, Ashford wine spritzers in flavors like sunset peach and berry bliss. My family crest, The one my grandfather designed when he planted the first vines in 1952 is cartoonified, turned into a logo that looks like it belongs on a college party pack. We're thinking vibrant, youthful, accessible, Stephanie says, practically vibrating with enthusiasm. We want to honor the heritage while making it relevant. I stare at the screen for a long moment, then look at Benjamin. This is what you want, son. This is the future you see for our family's work. He doesn't hesitate. Dad, it's not about what I want. It's about survival. The world is changing. We change with it, or we die. The room goes quiet. One of the lawyers slides the contract across the table, 120 pages of dense legal language that boils down to one thing. I sign, I get $120 million, and Theodore Ashford Wines ceases to exist as anything resembling what I built. Lawrence leans forward, his smile widening. Theodore, I know this is emotional, but emotions don't pay the bills, and frankly, at your age, with your health declining, this is the smart move, the safe move. You walk away wealthy, comfortable, and your son gets to secure his future. He glances at Benjamin, and there's something in that look, a shared understanding, a conspiracy. They think I'm beaten. They think I'm too tired, too sick, too old to fight back. I pick up the pen. I let it hover over the signature line. Everyone in the room leans forward slightly, holding their breath, and then I set the pen down. You know what? I say, my voice suddenly stronger, clearer. Before we sign anything, I think we should toast. Celebrate the occasion properly. After all, this is the end of an era. Lawrence looks confused but intrigued. A toast? Sure, Theodore. That's a nice gesture. I smile. Benjamin, would you mind going to the cellar and bringing up something special? The 1987 Reserve, the year you were born. Let's make this moment memorable. Benjamin hesitates for just a fraction of a second. Does he suspect something? But then his greed wins out. He wants this deal closed. He wants his money. Of course, Dad, the 87 perfect choice. And as he leaves the room, I think, perfect choice indeed, because that wine is going to be the last thing you taste before your whole world collapses. Benjamin returns 10 minutes later carrying 2 decanters, both filled with deep ruby liquid that catches the morning light coming through the conference room windows. He's smiling, confident, like he's already counting his share of the 120 million. He doesn't know that I pulled those bottles myself this morning, that I spent an hour in the cellar selecting exactly the right vintages for exactly the right people. Martin helped me decant them in the laboratory. One decanter filled with the real 1987 Reserve, the wine that launched Theodore Ashford into the international spotlight. The other filled with something else entirely. Something that Benjamin should recognize if he had any sense left in him. I stand up slowly, still playing the frail old man, and I take the decanters from Benjamin's hands. Thank you, son, I say softly, and I see something flicker in his eyes. Relief. Guilt, before he sits down beside Lawrence. I walk around the table, pouring carefully, deliberately. For Lawrence and his team, the 3 lawyers, the 2 analysts, Stephanie, the brand consultant, I pour from the first decanter. The real wine, the 1987 Reserve that won me my first international gold medal. For Benjamin and Lawrence, I pour from the second decanter. Same color, same viscosity, but not even close to the same thing. Before we drink, I say, settling back into my chair, I want to tell you a story about this wine. 1987 was the year Benjamin was born. August 15th, 3 weeks early. His mother, Catherine, she went into labor during harvest. I was in the vineyard, checking the Cabernet grapes, trying to decide if we should pick that week or wait, and the crew foreman came running up the hillside, shouting that Catherine's water broke. I pause, watching Benjamin's face. He's heard this story before, but he's listening like it's new, like he's trying to figure out where I'm going with it. I dropped everything, left the grapes, left the crew, drove 90 miles an hour to the hospital, and Benjamin arrived at 11:47 p.m., screaming his lungs out, red-faced and furious at the world. I see a few polite smiles around the table. Lawrence looks impatient, like he wants to get past the sentimental moment and back to business. But I'm not done. We harvested those grapes 2 days later, waited just long enough for the sugars to peak, for the tannins to soften. And when we bottled that vintage 18 months later, I knew it was special. I knew it was the best thing I'd ever made. I called it my Benjamin Vintage because I created it during the most important moment of my life. I lift my glass. So let's toast to Benjamin, to new beginnings, and to the truth. Everyone raises their glasses. Lawrence goes first, swirling the wine, bringing it to his nose. His eyes close, and I watch his face shift into something like reverence. "Oh," he says quietly. "Oh, that's... Theodore, this is extraordinary. I'm getting blackcurrant, cedar, leather. There's this mineral quality, like wet stone after rain. And the structure, God, the structure is immaculate." His team follows suit, each of them tasting, nodding, murmuring appreciation. The lawyers are impressed despite themselves. Even Stephanie, who probably drinks rosé spritzers on weeknights, looks stunned. "Mr. Ashford," she says, "this is incredible. I had no idea wine could taste like this." I turn to Benjamin and Lawrence, who are sitting beside each other at the far end of the table. "And you two, what do you taste?" Benjamin brings the glass to his lips. He hesitates, just for a second, and I wonder if some primal instinct is warning him. But then he takes a sip, and another. He swallows, and I watch his throat work. It's excellent, Dad. Fruity, balanced, complex. He's lying. I can see it in the way his eyes dart away from mine, in the slight tremor in his hand as he sets down the glass. Lawrence drinks too, and he nods enthusiastically. "Phenomenal, Theodore. Absolutely phenomenal. This is exactly the kind of quality we want to preserve in the Ashford brand, even as we expand the portfolio." I let the moment breathe. I let them think they've gotten away with it. Then I lean forward, folding my hands on the table, and I smile. "That's interesting, Benjamin, because what I'm tasting from your glass is something very different. I'm tasting zinc acetate, industrial solvent, the same chemical compound you've been putting in my drinks for 6 months." The room goes silent. Not the comfortable silence of anticipation, but the cold, suffocating silence of exposure. Benjamin's face drains of color. Lawrence's smile freezes, then cracks. What?" Benjamin stammers. "Dad, what are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the fact that you just drank the same poison you've been feeding me," I say, my voice steady, surgical. "Not enough to kill you, just enough to make a point, just enough to block your zinc receptors for the next few hours so you can experience what I've experienced every single day since you started this sick little game." Benjamin pushes back from the table, his chair screeching against the hardwood floor. You're insane," he spits. "This is insane. Lawrence, he's lost his mind." But Lawrence isn't looking at Benjamin, he's looking at me, and I can see the calculation happening behind his eyes, the realization that something has gone very, very wrong. I reach into my jacket pocket and pull out a small remote. I click it once, and the screen on the wall behind me flickers to life. Security footage, black and white, time-stamped. And there's Benjamin, clear as day, standing in Marchand's restaurant, reaching into his jacket, pulling out a vial, unscrewing the cap, and pouring it into my wine glass. The footage plays 3 times, 3 separate visits, 3 separate poisonings. "This was taken by a waitress named Hannah," I say calmly. "She thought I should know what my son was doing to me. She saved my life." I click the remote again, and a new document appears. A toxicology report from a private lab showing zinc acetate levels in my blood 10 times higher than normal. Kidney markers in the danger zone. A doctor's note confirming chemical exposure consistent with industrial poisoning. You tried to kill me, I say, and my voice finally breaks just a little. Not quickly, not mercifully, slowly, painfully. You wanted me confused, helpless, so broken that I'd sign away everything I've built. And why? Because you owe $7 million to bookies and loan sharks, and you're too much of a coward to face the consequences of your own stupidity. Benjamin's mouth opens, closes. He looks at Lawrence, desperate. I didn't. This isn't. He's making this up. But Lawrence is already standing, already backing away from the table like Benjamin is radioactive. I think we're done here, Lawrence says coldly. Udvint Global doesn't partner with criminals, and that's when I hear it. The sound of footsteps in the hallway, heavy, deliberate. The door opens, and 2 police officers walk in, followed by a detective I spoke with yesterday. Benjamin Ashford, the detective says. Benjamin looks at me, and for the first time, I see real fear in his eyes. Not regret, not remorse, just the animal panic of a man who realizes he's been caught. You called the cops, he whispers. On your own son. I stand up, and I feel every one of my 62 years in my bones, but I stand tall. I called them on a man who tried to murder me. The fact that you're my son just makes it worse. The detective steps forward, pulling out handcuffs, and I watch as my son, the boy I raised, the man I trusted with my legacy, is read his rights in the conference room where I was supposed to sign away everything I've ever worked for. And I feel nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication, just a cold, hollow certainty that some betrayals can never be forgiven. Benjamin spits the wine across the table, and it splatters onto the contract papers, turning the white pages purple like a Rorschach test of guilt. He's coughing, gagging, his hand clutching his throat like he can somehow undo what he's already swallowed. You poisoned me, he chokes out, and the irony isn't lost on anyone in the room. Lawrence has gone pale, staring at his own glass like it might explode. What the hell did you give us, Theodore? He demands, his voice cracking, but I ignore him. My eyes are locked on Benjamin, watching him unravel in real time. It's not poison, I say calmly. It's zinc acetate, industrial grade. The same compound you purchased from Chemtech Solutions on March 30th, April 17th, and June 9th. I have the receipts. Hannah found them in your car. The detective, his name is Morrison. A 20-year veteran who listened to my story yesterday with the kind of grim focus that told me he'd seen family betrayals before, steps forward and places a clear evidence bag on the table. Inside is the vial Hannah rescued from the restaurant bathroom trash. We had this analyzed by the state forensics lab, Morrison says, his voice flat and professional. Zinc acetate, 40% concentration. Purchased under your name, Mr. Ashford, from an industrial chemical supplier in Oakland. When we contacted the company, they confirmed you told them it was for tank maintenance at your family's vineyards, except your vineyard manager. He nods toward Martin. Confirmed you've never ordered this product before. Your facility uses enzymatic cleaners, not zinc-based solvents. Benjamin's eyes dart around the room, looking for an exit that doesn't exist. This is entrapment, he says, his voice rising with panic. You can't prove I was trying to hurt him. Maybe I was trying to help. Maybe I thought it was a supplement. A supplement. I cut him off, and my voice is ice. You thought an industrial tank cleaner labeled toxic, not for human consumption, was a supplement. I click the remote again, and the screen changes to show scanned pages of emails. His emails. Braze, these are from your correspondence with Lawrence Vint, June 23rd. The old man is finally cracking. Sent back 3 dishes at dinner. Thinks the chef is incompetent. Should be ready to sign in 60 days. July 18th. Dad can barely taste his morning coffee anymore. Time to accelerate the timeline. Lawrence stands up so fast his chair tips over backward. I didn't know about any of this. He's looking at Benjamin like he's seeing a stranger, and maybe he is. You told me your father was experiencing cognitive decline. You said it was natural, age-related. You never said, what did you think was happening? I interrupt, turning my attention to Lawrence for the first time. Did you really believe a master winemaker with 40 years of experience suddenly lost his palate overnight? Did it not seem convenient that his decline happened to coincide perfectly with your acquisition timeline? Lawrence's mouth opens and closes, but no sound comes out. He's calculating. I can see it. How much trouble he's in. Whether he can claim ignorance, whether his lawyers can protect him. Morrison pulls out his handcuffs, and the metallic click as he opens them echoes in the silent room. Under Benjamin Ashford, you're under arrest for attempted murder, assault with intent to inflict great bodily injury, and elder abuse. You have the right to remain silent. Wait! Benjamin's voice cracks like breaking glass. Wait, this wasn't my idea. Francesca, my wife, she's the one who suggested it. She found the chemical online. She said it was foolproof. And just like that, he throws his wife under the bus. The woman he married 8 years ago, the woman who gave him 2 daughters, Morrison doesn't even blink. We'll be speaking with Mrs. Ashford next. But right now, you're coming with us. As the officers move to cuff Benjamin, he turns to me one last time and his face twists into something ugly, something I've never seen before. You're really doing this, he hisses. I'm your son, your only child. Mum would be ashamed of you. And that's when I feel it. Not anger, not grief, but clarity. Your mother, I say quietly, spent 30 years teaching you the value of integrity. She died believing you'd inherited it, and I let you dishonor her memory by trying to destroy everything she and I built together. So no, Benjamin. If Catherine were here, she wouldn't be ashamed of me. She'd be heartbroken by you. The officers lead him toward the door, his expensive suit wrinkling, his watch catching the light one last time. And as he disappears into the hallway, I hear him shouting, I'll fight this. I'll prove you're incompetent. You'll never win. But I've already won, because the meeting room is filled with witnesses. Lawrence and his entire team watched Benjamin confess, watched him try to shift blame, watched him implode. The lawyers are whispering among themselves, already distancing Vint Global from the scandal. Stephanie looks like she might be sick, and Martin, loyal Martin, steps up beside me and quietly says, Theodore, you did the right thing. I nod, but I don't feel righteous. I feel empty, because I just destroyed my son. And even though he tried to destroy me first, even though he poisoned me for 6 months and planned to steal my life's work, there's a part of me, a small, stubborn part, that wishes it had never come to this. But that's the thing about betrayal. Once the poison is in the wine, you can't unpour it. You can only decide who drinks it. The police take Benjamin away in handcuffs, and the conference room empties like someone pulled a fire alarm. Lawrence and his team are gone within minutes. No handshakes, no apologies, just a frantic scramble to distance themselves from the disaster. Their lawyers are already on their phones, probably drafting statements about how Vint Global had no knowledge of any criminal activity and condemns elder abuse in the strongest terms. I watch them flee through the window, their black SUVs kicking up dust on the gravel driveway, and I feel something close to satisfaction. They came here to pick my bones clean, and instead they got front row seats to their golden boy's arrest. Martin and I sit in the empty room for a long time, neither of us speaking. The decanters are still on the table, the wine inside them slowly oxidizing, turning from ruby to rust. Finally, Martin breaks the silence. What happens now? He asks. I take a breath, feeling the weight of the last 6 months lift just slightly off my shoulders. Now we wait for Benjamin's trucks to arrive at the grey market dealer with 5,000 bottles of vinegar. Martin's eyes widen. Wait, he still went through with the liquidation, even after... Oh, he went through with it, I say, allowing myself a small smile. Friday night, while I was detoxing in the lab, his crew loaded every bottle from the vintage cellar. They're probably halfway to the buyer's warehouse in Nevada by now. I pull out my phone and check the tracking app I secretly installed on the lead truck's GPS system. Benjamin didn't know I had access to the fleet management software, another thing he underestimated about the confused old man. The trucks are exactly where I expected them to be, approaching a warehouse outside of Reno, owned by a company called Prestige Beverage Liquidators. They'll arrive around 3 p.m., I tell Martin. The buyer will inspect the first few cases, probably crack open a bottle or two to verify quality, and then I trail off, imagining the moment, the sound of a cork popping, the pour, the smell of vinegar hitting the air instead of aged Cabernet, the buyer's face twisting in confusion, then rage. "Theodore, you're a genius," Martin says, shaking his head in disbelief. "Benjamin's going to lose everything." The buyer will demand their money back, and Benjamin already spent it, or at least he was planning to. The loan sharks aren't going to wait for a refund. I nod slowly. He gambled his way into $7 million in debt. He tried to poison his way out of it, and now he's going to prison with nothing to show for it except a warehouse full of expensive vinegar and a criminal record. The poetic justice of it isn't lost on me. Benjamin tried to destroy my palate, my ability to distinguish good wine from spoiled, and in the end, he couldn't tell the difference himself. My phone rings, unknown number. I answer, and a woman's voice comes through, shaky and desperate. "Mr. Ashford, this is Francesca, Benjamin's wife, the woman he just tried to blame for everything. I need to talk to you. Please, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know what Benjamin was doing. The police just called me. They want to question me about the zinc acetate, but I never even heard of that chemical until today. Benjamin told me you were sick, that it was natural, that the doctors confirmed it. I believed him." Her voice cracks. "Please, you have to believe me. I would never hurt you. Your family." I close my eyes, trying to decide if she's telling the truth or if this is just another layer of deception. But then I remember something, Francesca at Christmas dinner, bringing me a blanket when I complained about being cold, Francesca asking if I wanted her to schedule a doctor's appointment when I mentioned my sense of smell was fading. Small kindnesses that seemed genuine. "Francesca," I say carefully, "if you're innocent, cooperate with the police. Tell them everything you know. Don't protect Benjamin. He threw you under the bus the second he got caught." There's a long pause, then a bitter laugh. "He really did that?" she asks. "He really blamed me?" Without hesitation, I confirm. Another pause, then, okay, I'll tell them everything. About the gambling, about the loan sharks, about the meeting with Lawrence, all of it. And just like that, Benjamin's house of cards collapses completely. His wife, his accomplice turned witness, his trucks filled with worthless cargo, his reputation destroyed in front of the very people he was trying to impress. Within 24 hours, the news spreads through the wine industry like wildfire. Theodore Ashford's son arrested for attempted murder. The phone calls start coming in. Colleagues, competitors, sommeliers I haven't spoken to in years. All of them expressing shock, offering support, asking if I'm okay. And for the first time in 6 months, I can honestly say, yes, I'm okay, because my vineyards are still mine. My wines are safe in that barn, wrapped in blankets like sleeping treasures, and my legacy, it's no longer in the hands of a desperate, greedy son. It's back where it belongs, in my hands. 3 weeks after Benjamin's arrest, I stand in the vintage cellar, the real one now, the barn where Martin and I hid the bottles, and I realize something profound. I'm free, not just from Benjamin's poison, but from the assumption that blood determines legacy. For 40 years, I believed my son would inherit this place, that the Ashford name would continue through him. I ignored every warning sign, his impatience, his contempt for tradition, his obsession with quick money over quality. I told myself he'd mature, that fatherhood would change him, that love of the land would eventually take root. But some seeds never germinate, no matter how good the soil. I'm rearranging bottles when I hear footsteps on the gravel outside. It's Hannah, the waitress from Marchand's, the woman who saved my life by paying attention when no one else did. She's wearing jeans and a simple white blouse, her hair pulled back, and she looks nervous. "Mr. Ashford," she says, standing in the doorway, "I got your message. You said you wanted to talk." I gesture for her to come inside, and she steps carefully around the cases of wine, her eyes widening as she takes in the sheer volume of bottles surrounding us. This is all the wine Benjamin tried to sell?" she asks. I nod. 5,000 bottles. 40 years of work, the best vintages I've ever produced. She walks slowly down the rows, reading labels, and I watch her face transform. She's not just looking at wine, she's reading stories. 1987, Reserve, she murmurs. "The Benjamin vintage, the one you served at the meeting." She moves to the next rack. 1995, Pinot Noir. I remember reading about this. Robert Parker gave it 98 points. He said it was a meditation on elegance. She turns to me, and her eyes are bright. "Mr. Ashford, I'm just a waitress. Why did you ask me here?" I pick up a bottle, the 2003 Bordeaux blend, one of my personal favorites, and hand it to her. "Tell me what you think of this wine," I say. She looks confused but takes the bottle. I hand her a corkscrew and 2 glasses. She opens it carefully, respectfully, and pours. She swirls the glass, studying the color in the dim barn light. Then she brings it to her nose, and I watch her close her eyes. "Blackberry," she says softly. "Cedar, tobacco leaf. There's something else. Leather. No. More like old books, aged paper." She takes a sip, lets it sit on her tongue. The tannins are still present but softened. It's structured but not aggressive. And the finish. She pauses, searching for words. It stays with you, like a conversation you don't want to end. She opens her eyes and looks at me. "This is extraordinary." I smile. "You just described that wine better than most professional sommeliers I know, and you did it without any formal training, without any pretension. You tasted it honestly." I take a sip from my own glass, savoring the wine that Benjamin tried to sell for pennies on the dollar. "Hannah, I've been thinking about succession, about who should inherit this place when I'm gone. I don't have a son anymore, not one I can trust. My daughter-in-law is divorcing Benjamin and taking the girls as far from this mess as possible. I have no other children, no cousins, no nephews who give a damn about wine." I set down my glass and look at her directly. "But I have you, a woman who noticed something wrong and risked her job to tell me. A woman who understands that wine isn't just a product, it's a story, a legacy, a responsibility." Hannah's eyes go wide. "Mr. Ashford, I don't understand. What are you asking?" I take a breath. "I'm asking if you'd consider learning the business. Not as an employee, as an apprentice, as my successor. I'll teach you everything: viticulture, fermentation, blending, barrel aging, estate management. It'll take years. It'll be hard work. You'll have dirt under your fingernails and aching muscles and moments where you want to quit. But if you have the passion, if you have the palate, if you have the integrity, I'll make you a partner. And when I'm gone, this place will be yours." She stares at me like I've just offered her the moon. "But I'm nobody," she whispers. I'm a waitress who barely finished community college. I don't have a degree in viticulture or business, or you have something better, I interrupt. You have loyalty, you have honesty, you have a nose that detected notes in that wine that took me 20 years to learn to identify. And most importantly, you understand that some things are worth protecting, even when it costs you something. I extend my hand. So what do you say, Hannah? Do you want to learn how to make wine that people will remember for 40 years? She looks at my hand, then at the bottles surrounding us, then back at me. And slowly, a smile spreads across her face. Not the polite, professional smile of a waitress, but something genuine and bright and full of possibility. Yes, she says, gripping my hand firmly. Yes, Mr. Ashford, I want to learn. And just like that, Theodore Ashford Wines has a future again. Not the future Benjamin envisioned with canned cocktails and quarterly earnings reports, but a future built on the same principles my grandfather taught me 70 years ago. Respect the land, honor the craft, and never compromise quality for convenience. As Hannah and I walk out of the barn into the afternoon sunlight, heading toward the vineyards where the Cabernet grapes are beginning to ripen, I feel something I haven't felt in years. Hope. Not the desperate hope of a man clinging to the past, but the quiet confidence of someone who's planted seeds in good soil and trusts they'll grow. 6 months later, I'm standing in my office looking at a photograph of Catherine, my late wife, taken in this very vineyard 30 years ago. She's wearing that ridiculous sun hat she loved, dirt on her knees from pruning vines, laughing at something I said that I can't remember anymore. I keep the photo on my desk because it reminds me of something she told me once, after a particularly brutal harvest when half our crop was destroyed by an unexpected frost. Theodore, she said, wiping tears from my face, a vineyard teaches you that not everything that grows from your soil belongs to you. Sometimes what you plant dies. Sometimes what you nurture turns bitter. But that doesn't mean you stop planting. It means you learn to recognize what's worth keeping. Benjamin is serving 7 years for attempted murder and elder abuse. Francesca divorced him before the trial even started, and she's raising their daughters in Portland, far away from the scandal. She sends me photos sometimes, the girls at soccer practice, at school plays, laughing with friends. They look happy, happier than they ever looked when Benjamin was in their lives. Lawrence Vince Company settled out of court for their role in the scheme, though he maintained he had no knowledge of criminal activity. The settlement was substantial enough that I was able to renovate the fermentation hall and upgrade our laboratory equipment. I like to think Catherine would appreciate the irony. Her son's greed funded the very legacy he tried to destroy. Hannah has proven to be everything I hoped for and more. She's a natural, not just at tasting, but at understanding the rhythm of the vineyard, the patience required to craft something that will outlast us both. Last week, she identified a bacterial infection in one of our Chardonnay barrels before I even noticed. She started designing a new label series called Resiliency. Wines that honor the vineyard's ability to survive frost, drought, disease, betrayal. The first vintage launches next spring. I'm putting her name on the label right next to mine. Theodore and Hannah Ashford Wines. It has a nice ring to it. And the barn full of wine? We moved it back to the proper cellar, every bottle accounted for, every vintage preserved. Martin and I threw a small party when the last case was returned, just the core crew, the people who've been with me for decades. We opened a bottle of that 1987 Reserve, the real one, and we toasted to loyalty, to second chances, to the idea that family isn't defined by blood, but by who stands beside you when the poison is poured. I've learned something through all of this, something I should have known sooner. Blood makes you related, but loyalty makes you family. Benjamin carried my DNA, my name, my legacy in his veins, but he didn't carry my values. He didn't understand that a legacy isn't something you inherit. It's something you earn every single day through choices and sacrifices and the quiet dignity of doing work that matters. Hannah understands that. Martin understands that. Even Francesca, in her own way, and understood it when she chose truth over complicity. So I'm not retiring. Not yet. I'm going to spend the next decade teaching Hannah everything I know, and then I'm going to watch her take Theodore Ashford wines into a future I can't even imagine. And when I'm gone, really gone, not just poisoned and confused, but actually at the end, I'll know that what I built will survive. Not because my son carried it forward, but because I found someone worthy of carrying it. Someone who saved my life not because she had to, but because it was the right thing to do. I recovered my senses just in time, but you know, not everyone is that lucky. Sometimes the warning comes from the most unexpected places. Imagine this. You're at the grocery store, paying for an elderly woman's groceries because she's short on cash. Just a small kindness, nothing extraordinary, but as you're leaving, she grabs your arm, her grip surprisingly strong, and she whispers, "I clean your son's house. He invited you to dinner tonight, didn't he? Don't go into the backyard, the hole is already dug." What do you do when you discover that your only child, the person you raised and loved and trusted, has been planning your funeral before you're even dead? How do you survive when the poison isn't in your wine, it's in your family tree?